These headlines point us back to what really matters. Ordinary neighbors showing extraordinary care. I'm Johan and this is Neighbourly Headlines. Real stories of kindness, community, and faith in action across Canada. Let's take a look at what's been happening close to home. Most days, headlines rush by faster than a curling rock on clean ice. But every so often, a few stories glide right into your heart. If you've ever wondered what keeps Canadian communities from unraveling, here's your hint. It's usually held together by volunteers, coffee, and pure grit. From curlers who care, to friendly visitors, to folks delivering meals on frosty roads, today's stories prove that service might actually be Canada's unofficial sport. These curlers care. How Collingwood rocks at volunteering. You've heard of sweeping the ice. But in Collingwood, curlers are sweeping hearts too. The Curling Club of Collingwood, try saying that 10 times fast, doesn't just gather to throw stones. They've made community care part of their DNA. When club member Ron McRae joined the annual Hospice Georgian Triangle hike and bike fundraiser, there's another mouthful, he noticed the same familiar faces. Teammates trading brooms for bicycles, all raising funds for local hospice care. That spark turned into something bigger. This year, 120 curlers formed the official Curlers Care team, raising over $37,000, enough to fund essential programs like grief support, pain management, and end-of-life care for families across the region. The club's culture runs deeper than the ice sheet. They host charity bonspiels, teach curling to 250 school kids every season, and even rally to buy a powered wheelchair for a teammate. As past president Mark McLaren puts it, we thrive on volunteering. So I think it's fair to say that these curlers are truly on a roll. Their example reminds us that the best teams don't just aim for the button, they aim for the heart. In the words of one of my favorite Corner Gas episodes that happens to involve curling, rather than shouting, "Hurry hard," I encourage you to have a heart. Have a heart. The Friendly Visitor Program, where friendship is the mission. In Cambridge, Ontario, city staff are putting out a call. Not for police, not for plans, but for people. The Friendly Visitor Program pairs volunteers with older adults and individuals living with disabilities who are experiencing isolation. It's simple. 2 hours a week to play cards, share a walk, or just talk. Right now, 30 people are waiting to be matched, and some have been waiting over a year. The WHO says 1 in 4 adults experience social isolation. But in Cambridge, the solution might just start with a knock at the door and a "Hey, you want to play cribbage?" I'm sure Cambridge isn't alone. What opportunities exist in your community to mitigate the isolation that exists today? What impactful relationships and stories could we be missing out on? They could be a simple card game away. It's amazing what 2 hours of listening can do, because sometimes the most important thing you can bring to a visit is your time. Before we get into our last story, it's time for Neighbourhood Watch. This is the segment where we take a peek at some of the real calls Canadians have made to their cities about their neighbours, because sometimes life gets a little creative. After you hear today's call, you can head over to our CareImpact podcast group on Facebook and vote in our poll. Would you call this one in? Would you talk to your neighbour? Would you let it go and pray? Or would you have a hard time not retaliating? Here's today's actual complaint call. A neighbor reported that another resident was purposefully farting at them and asked bylaw officers to arrest the individual for harassment. Okay, now I've heard of neighbors raising a stink, but this takes things to a whole new level. I can't decide what's worse, the fact that someone allegedly weaponized lunch or that another person thought a city bylaw officer had jurisdiction over it. And let's be honest, this is not one of those situations that's going to get better by taking a deep breath. But it's a reminder that sometimes the best way to keep the peace isn't through enforcement, It's through ventilation. So what would you do? Would you call this one in? Would you talk to your neighbor? Would you let it go and pray for them? Or would you have a hard time not retaliating? You can go vote right now on the CareImpact Podcast Facebook group and check out to see where people are at. And whatever your answer may be, remember, every neighborhood's got its quirks, and sometimes you're the quirky one. Now, on to our last story of the day. Volunteers urgently needed to deliver meals and drive seniors in East Parry Sound. Up north in East Parry Sound, and also home to one of CareImpact's wonderful associates, volunteers are the lifeline for hundreds of seniors who need rides to medical appointments or meals delivered to their doors. But that lifeline's getting thin. Program Coordinator Leslie Price from East Parry Sound Community Support Services says their volunteer pool has dropped from over 100 to fewer than 50. For the first time, they're struggling to cover routes across the sprawling region. Staff are even leaving their desks to deliver meals. Talk about taking field work literally. Each ride, each delivery keeps someone connected, nourished, and cared for. Price says it plainly. Access to nutrition and medical appointments are not luxuries. They're basic human rights. She hopes more locals step forward, reminding us that none of us are immune to need. Don't think someone else will do it, she says. Someday we might be the ones waiting for that meal. Hey, I used to deliver Meals on Wheels, and let me tell you, some of the recipients of those meals are so lonely, and it just makes their day to have someone come to their door. I don't say this news story because it's an amazing story of neighborly care, but I say because there's opportunities out there for us to do simple things to be good neighbors. If you've got a driver license, a bit of gas in the tank, this might be your chance to go the extra kilometer, literally. Because sometimes compassion looks like a full thermos, a good playlist, and a seatbelt click of purpose. From Collingwood's curling ice to Cambridge's coffee chats to Parry Sound's frozen roads, today's stories remind us that compassion doesn't need an audience. It just needs commitment. Each volunteer's small yes echoes across kilometers and generations, proving that care is one Canadian export that never goes out of season. You can't put tariffs on that. I'm Johan, and thanks for listening to today's Neighborly Headlines. These headlines remind us that good news is still all around us, if we take the time to notice. Do you have a story of care happening in your neighborhood? Share it at neighborlypodcast.ca or join our CareImpact podcast group on Facebook. Neighbourly is an initiative of CareImpact, a Canadian charity equipping churches, agencies, and communities with tech and training to care better together. Learn more at careimpact.ca. I'm Johan Heinrichs, and this has been Neighborly Headlines, because every story of care deserves to be seen and shared.